So without further ado, Samar?
Welcome, thank you for being here. My name is Samar, I'm a structural engineer with Helix Steel Engineering Department. And today it's part of a session about what I wish I knew about ACI as a young professional. And I'm gonna share my experience and my journey in ACI. So a few words about myself, since I'm the speaker, I get to talk more about myself. So I have a bachelor's degree in civil structural engineering and a master's degree in engineering management from Eastern Michigan University. I have lead degree in associate credential and more than 7 years experience in structural design and construction, including multi-story buildings. Now I've been saying 7 years for a while now. I think it's 8 or 9 by now. I'm with Helix Engineering Department. I have a lot of published papers, including a paper in ASTM, and I'm an active member in ACI. So ACI in general, we're gonna go through ACI vision and mission, because that's why we are here. Because I believe a well-written vision and mission ensures that each element of the strategic management process is aligned with ACI long-term goals. So ACI envisions a future where everyone has the knowledge needed to ensure to use concrete effectively and to meet the demand of a changing world. ACI mission, ACI develops, disseminates, and advances the adoption of its consensus-based knowledge on concrete and its use. So who is ACI? For me, since I've studied some management courses, so from a business management stand view, I believe ACI is a really successful organization since maintaining its business from 1904. ACI is leading authority and resource worldwide. It provides standard, educational and training programs, and certification program. Now, as we all know, the history of ACI is closely tied to the history of concrete technology. So far, ACI has 95 chapters, 110 student chapters, and actually I talked to ACI staff, so I updated the last numbers. Now there are more than 30,000 members and in more than 100 countries. So why we are here? Why ACI for individuals? But by going to ACI, I figured that ACI allows us to go beyond our engineering technical knowledge, developing into managers and leaders of tomorrow. Whether we work at an office, lab, or a job site, technical standards support quality and safety innovations in all of our fields. So ACI enhances management skills, personal branding, social styles, problem solvings, presentation skills, and of course, global diversity. So why ACI? ACI for organizations. Organization members will have the opportunity to interact with leaders in their field, learn from each other's challenges and successes, and of course, create long-lasting connections. And I figured that the more you come to ACI, the more everybody becomes friends more than coworkers. So many organizations waste a lot of time and money before discovering the formula to success. So learning from success stories by talking to people from the same field, the organization will save a lot of time and money trying to figure out what works in their construction process. So how to get involved in ACI? Technical documents, and those are usually written by technical committees, local chapters, networking events, conferences, and there is also a career center that's added by suggested by one of ACI staff. There is a career center if you're interested. So my work in ACI, I started coming to ACI in 2014 in Washington, D.C. conference. And I recognized by attending ACI, it gave me access to leading concrete technology update, opportunity to connect with leaders, participate in technical committees, and I didn't have any problem with expenses just because my company already supported my involvement. Actually, probably the first couple of conventions, I have no idea what I'm doing here or why I'm even ACI. But now I really thank my manager, Luke, he's right here. Because by attending ACI, that's where you'll know why you are here in ACI. ACI committees. Overall, committee members help direct the industry, identify problems, exchange ideas. By participating in ACI, members remain up to date with the latest technical and developments. ACI is the best place to gather information and interact with industry experts. So if you want to know what's happening in the concrete world, that's where you want to be. And part of the technical committees, you can actually vote on technical documents. And my suggestion is, if you make a vote, you better know why you are voting, especially if it's negative, because then you are delaying the whole publish of a document. So it gives you a good opportunity to give more rational explanation for your decisions. So ACI technical committees, there are a lot of technical committees for ACI. 100 are those are general committees, 200 material properties of concrete, 300 design and construction, 400 concrete reinforcement and structural analysis, those are my favorite, and 500 specialized applications and repairs. So my suggestion is go to technical committee website, go through their titles and scope, and figure out which topics you are interested in and be a member of it. Also, some interesting event in ACI, international lunch. Usually those are sponsored by ACI international advisory committees, and they usually have international lunch guest speaker. So they usually have a speaker talking about an impressive project around the world. They're gonna share their their design and construction details while you're having lunch. The Excellent Awards Gala, I think that's every other convention. So the ACI Excellent in Concrete Construction Awards will showcase and honor some of the most creative projects in the concrete world, over 85 concrete projects from around the world. So you're gonna be there, and they're gonna just compile 85 projects, international projects. Sometimes they will have a quick video clip for each one of them, so you will know what's going on around the world. And for me personally, my best part is just to go to the judges before and after and try to figure out how they make a decision of the winner project, because all of them are really impressive. So for me, by continuing participating in ACI and joining committees, I gained new knowledge, contribute to the knowledge base. I've done a lot of presentations. I'm almost regular presenter. I reviewed papers, participated in student competitions, worked on updated documents, and I'm already a secretary of some of the subcommittees. So ACI local chapters, those are really convenient activities to participate in. For me, I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan, so my chapter is ACI Greater Michigan Chapter. We usually have monthly dinner events with PDHs, and we usually try to get speakers to talk about really large local projects. We have almost annual meeting with Michigan Department of Transportation update. Some of the sessions were about waterproofing ceiling roundtables. And the last one in October was Gardea Bridge, and that was a really good speaker. So the bridge will be between Canada and the US, and the gentleman went through the concrete work on each side, and then a lot of details about how they actually manage this massive project. Another activities in ACI-GM, we recently held a student appreciation night or university appreciation night. Part of that night, we had to actually help them with make some cold calling to universities, held some meetings with chair of departments, whether it's civil engineering or structural departments, and then give them a quick presentation about why they would even interested to come to our event along with their students, because we had like a poster session for them, and then the winner we will cover their expense to come here to ACI International. So that was a really great event. It was October 8th. So that was a really, they have a really great researchers to share part of their work. There is also an ACI international workshop on structural concrete. Now, I didn't know about this workshop until this convention just because I showed up early. So the preliminary purpose of this workshop is to gather and share information on the development and application of concrete design standards throughout the Americas and beyond. So you'll be able to talk to a lot of professionals who actually use reinforced concrete around the world and just get some insight on what's happening outside the US. Within this workshop, there is a young professional poster session. I actually applied for that with two of the projects I've been working on, but I've been denied, so it kind of hurt my feelings. But since I paid for it, I thought, there you go. So in conclusion, the key to advance your professional career and move up in rank in ACI while benefiting your organization is to be active in ACI, participate in committees, attend conferences, because ACIs give us the opportunity to meet leaders or experts and become experts. Thank you.
For those of you who know me, this was not my first plan, okay? So I'm going to take you through this little journey here, so bear with me. So I was supposed to go to law school. This was not something that I had originally planned to do. I had not planned to be here. My background was not traditional. So when I grew up, I wanted to be either a track superstar or a Ninja Turtle. I was the type that was in bayous and ditches collecting snapping turtles in a bucket as a kid. I would really hope that one day I would find some ooze and turn into a Ninja Turtle. That didn't work out very well for me. So we needed a plan B. My background, I had a kid when I started college. I started college later in life. I had a steady job, but I didn't have that degree. You need that paper in order to be somebody. The odds were against me, and oh yeah, FloJo and Ninja Turtle were already filled job positions, so couldn't do that. So plan B, okay, I got it. I'm gonna be an attorney. I'll get a great job at a high-profile firm. I'll fulfill my dream of helping others without a voice, and I'll make a ton of money, right? Well, the reality of that was I hated attorneys. The high-profile firms wanted you to work for free. Who wants to work for free? Pro bono really means for good. That's about it. And, oh yeah, you're not going to get rich. So what happened? Going along with Plan B, I really knew that I had a knack for construction law, so I ran with it. So I made some moves. I learned how to read a plan set. I learned the jargon, I learned the language, and I really enjoyed finding the missing piece to the puzzle, trying to figure out why the roof was leaking at the convention center, and trying to figure out who's liable. So my inspiration kicked in. I changed majors in the middle of college, wrapped up the basics, dumped law, took my first engineering course, welcome anxiety, embrace the chaos. So at this point, I'm thinking I'm in over my head, right? Structural analysis 1. I'll never forget that first day. I realized I made a mistake and I should immediately drop the course. But then I started thinking, you know what? This is a weeder course. I can do it. It'll be fine. So I had an epiphany and I pummeled through it. Structural analysis 2. The professor is looking at me without looking at me and says, if you don't get it by now, you should seriously consider becoming an artist or a ballerina. So with that being said, when somebody is told they can't do something, what are you going to do? You're going to do it, right? Don't let anybody dictate your abilities. I realized that studying hour by hour was draining. 3.5 to 4.0 GPA, was that really going to get me where I needed to be? My head in the books was not giving me the opportunity I really needed. Welcome ACI, University of Houston Downtown Student Chapter, which is all right here, by the way. I became a part of a small group that helped roll this out. I was approached by a student who was approached by the professor, and we didn't have very many organizations at our university, so this was kind of a new gig for us. The local chapter stepped in, and they helped us in any way that they could to get us moving because they needed student participation. I became the chapter's vice president because we didn't really have very many members. So I was struggling trying to get as many members as we could just to meet that 15-member minimum requirement. Our big sales pitch was, hey, we offer travel opportunities, we offer scholarships, come on. And the hands-on experience, that was something else. You learned concrete design, you learned mixed design. That was me holding the beam 3 years ago that we had done the form work on with the FRP composite competition. It really did provide an opportunity to network with prospective employers and universities. We had great relationships with other universities across the nation. And in between all that, I picked up my grade 1 tech certification. So if all else failed, I could always work in the lab. So getting involved in college. My biggest fears in life are failure and the unknown. And maybe some of you guys can relate. I was scared to fail as a leader and even more terrified of leading. I felt good in my comfort zone of just kind of sitting behind the curtain and making things happen. I did not want to be in the forefront at all. This was the absolute best accident of my college career, and I discovered I was a pretty good communicator. I could talk to people. I make and continue to make great connections through ACI. I've met some great people here, and they're my biggest cheerleaders, so I appreciate that. And it would not be possible without good professors and mentors. As the previous presenters have said, find your champion. Find that mentor that's going to help you move forward. The opportunity ACI provided opened many doors. I was approached by our local chapter representative at the time, Jacob Borgerson, and he advised me to start coming to some luncheons and start networking and mixing with people post-graduation. I became the president of UHD's ASCE student chapter, which I wasn't expecting because we had already rolled things out for ACI. I was given a scholarship to travel to Anaheim that year, Great Minds in STEM, if some of you are familiar with that. Multiple doors opened because I decided to step out of my comfort zone. And I feel like that's something that we all have to try to push ourselves to do, something that we're not used to doing. I reached out to a mentor who asked if I wanted to interview with flood control, and I received an offer 2 days later. So that right there tells you if you step out of that box that you're used to being in, you need to embrace what's about to happen. And all of this because ACI planted that seed. And yes, that is a plant growing through concrete right there. So it's possible. Paying it back. Post-graduation, I stayed involved. I wanted to be that mentor that we didn't really have when we were in school. I helped mentor undergrad students in ACI and helped them find the resources they needed in order to excel. The student chapter sent me to a convention post-graduation as their mentor, and I was invited and recognized at the UHD Structural Engineer Organization's Hard Hat Day, and it was a true feel-good moment. So that professor that indirectly said to become a ballerina, he's my mentor. My ACI mentor reached out, Jacob, and encouraged me to get involved. I began attending the meetings, and I was a little nervous because this was a whole new ballgame. These were professionals. These were my potential colleagues, and I was nervous. I was the only girl in the room. Stepping out of that comfort zone into the real world was something I feared, but I was familiar with. The nominations committee put my name up for the 2019 vice president, and here I am, and president-elect 2020 for our Houston chapter. You get to attend national roundtables. You get to network with people who went through the same path. Maybe not the exact same road, but the same path. And this great group of guys have taught me so much thus far, and they continue to push me to my limits. Technical committees. Start networking and find your interest through ACI's technical committees. You need to look into the committees and find out what's your interest? What do you like to do? What is it that you're really passionate about? It's a great way to collaborate with other ACI committees and joint partnerships to develop related information so you guys can all network, and eventually they might be your prospective employers, so you never know. So I work for the government. I work for Harris County Flood Control. My employer cannot pick up my expenses when I travel for ACI. So I do it myself. It's something that I'm really passionate about when I'm here, so I just do it. My managers encourage involvement, and they support my roles, and they understand that this is important to me, so you need to communicate that to your employers if you're having issues trying to bridge that gap. They'll give you opportunities always, you just need to talk to them. So, in conclusion, what I wish I really knew was, I really wish I would have gotten involved a lot sooner. The time is really worth it. Yes, your grades are very important, but if you have a networking opportunity and they see how hard you're working on top of making time for additional organizations, additional involvement, it might pay off. Just know it's never too late to get involved. Living proof talking to you right here. Find your champion mentor, whether it's a student, professor, or engineer outside of school, and let them know you'd like to know more. And network. Every presenter has said this, network. Look up from your phone and shake a hand, because it could be your next potential employer. Take questions at the end. Thank you, guys.
All right, good morning. All right, so I am Dimitri Faith. I've been involved with ACI for about 7 years. A little background, I didn't create a slide because you don't want to know too much about me. But I'm originally from Belgium and Europe, got my PhD over there. 10 years ago, I crossed the Atlantic for the postdoc, and I stuck here, right? So I'll share you some information. I'll go a little more detailed on technical committees and technical committees only. Right, so you get some general stories right now. This is my perspective, and that's the disclaimer. It's my perspective, right? I might not fully agree with what ACI is saying. Right, but I'll give you my vision on how to get involved with technical committees. But first question I should ask, where's everyone? If you look at an ACI convention, you look at the total number of attendees, people being here, you get, an average somewhere 1,500 to 2,000 members, right? If I look in this room, I don't see 1,500 or 2,000, right? So you only see the magnitude of ACI conventions twice. The opening session and the mixer. Especially the mixer, go. Right, make sure you get it. So if I take the average, so I got a running number here. I got a running number here to see, okay, where's everybody hanging out? So I'll make it a very rough guesstimate of where everybody is. All right, first thing, look around you. I've been a little optimistic. I was hoping to have 200 people in this room. It didn't happen, but okay. Assume there's about 100, 150 in this room over here. And here in Cincinnati, there's 3 parallel sessions happening every single time from Sunday to Wednesday. So let's multiply this number by 3. In other conventions, it's usually 4. But again, let's say roughly 450 people are attending the technical sessions. I'm down to 1,300. All right. Then there's people hanging out in the exhibition hall. There are people having a coffee break. There's people involved with the student competition, especially on Sunday. And so on. So that's the guesstimate. About 300 people hanging out over there in those rooms. I'm down to 1,000. And then I got people, and I was supposed to have pictures here, but I didn't have enough time yesterday. There's people socializing. They're going out for lunch, they're going out for dinner, they're talking, they're having a beer at the bar, and so on. There's people that have meetings one-on-one because they meet each other twice a year, because that's what conventions are. There's people that are working hard, and there's people that are very tired from working, and they're working in their room. Very actively, right? So let's say what? About 200 people doing that? So I'm down to 800. I'm still missing 800 people. Half. Where are they? Are they doing tourism? Well, not today. Weather is not really pretty for it, right? I know Cincinnati has a lot to offer, but I doubt all these people are being tourists, right? Maybe they're doing tourism of all those meeting rooms we have over here. Maybe they look at the architecture and the style of all these meeting rooms. No. These people are doing a ton of work behind the scenes. These people are involved in technical and I'll say other committees, but I'll focus on the technical one. So, and I had a chat with David Lang yesterday, and I made him make a guesstimate of how many people simultaneously, at any time of the day, roughly, would be attending committee meetings. He said about 1,000, so, I'm not too far off. So there's 800 people right now, somewhere in this building, sitting in a committee meeting. That's a lot. So, what is a technical committee? What do they do? They're not just sitting there, well, most of them. Not sitting there doing nothing and telling stories, right? So, a technical committee is an assembly of experts on a specific topic, and the goal of that committee is to spread knowledge on that topic. That's what they do, right? Maybe the most famous one is ACI 318. That's the ones who create the building code, right? So their goal is to create, although that's been done, and to adjust the building code based on old knowledge, based on newly generated knowledge, based on research, and so on. That's what they do. That's what every single committee is doing, or at least is supposed to do, to get the information out. That's a big mission of technical committees. Which topics? And I said, I'm from Belgium, right? So I don't know, for those who know Belgium, Belgium is beer country #1 in the world, especially on the style of beers, right? So there's already been a list, there's almost anything on concrete you will find a technical committee on. It's like a full list of Belgian beers. And even if you have to taste them all, you'll find one, at least one, you'll like. You'll find at least one you'll be impressed with, right? To help you a little bit, I think Samar, you presented already the numbers in here. They're divided, they're numbered, right? So you don't need to go through all committees to find what you're interested in, right? You get general committees, you get committees interested in materials and concrete properties, you get committees on design and construction, you get committees on reinforcement structural analysis, and then you get committees on specialized applications and repair. For those who want the link, just go online, ACI, the website, click on committees, and you find the director of the committees, and then you get the 400 plus. Yes, good luck. All right. Now the task of a committee is to spread info. How do they do that? Two ways. One, they create technical documents, which could be guides, as recommendations coming from the committee, which could be reports, which are actually the big works, is a summary of the information on a certain topic, or could be a techno. And a techno is a highly specialized short communication on a specific topic of interest to the committee. That's one thing they do to spread information. How are these created? Effort. Writing effort. Writing effort by a few or a number of the members of the committee. And the number, well, that depends on the committee. How many they are involved in writing. It depends also on the size of the document. If it's a tech note, you get a couple of people. If it's going to be a big document, well, then hopefully the entire committee is involved. But it's a big writing effort. Then the second thing they do, when that thing is written, then it goes out for vote, for ballot. Because the entire committee, the entire voting members, all voting members of the committee need to agree with that document. If one says no, it needs to be adjusted. Right? So that's the consensus thing in there. And then once that is done, and usually it's an iterative process to get through this thing, then you get the technical activities committee to see if things are accurate, if things are according to the standards from ACI and so on. So TAC usually sends the document back to the committee to see, okay, you need to correct this, and this. The second thing they do into spreading information is organize technical sessions. Or organize sessions, like this one, right? So that's where you get a bunch of speakers lined up to share their opinion, expertise, knowledge. And for example, this one in here, and it's not expertise and knowledge, but it's just my opinion over here. But I'm here to share my opinion to you about this specific topic. So again, the goal is to spread information, encourage discussion. In some cases, you may even have a call of papers. A little more in detail how you can involve with this through the story. So how do you get involved? Well, the first thing we need to do, the first thing I would recommend you to do, is to attend the committee meeting. Don't apply for membership immediately. Attend the committee meeting you are interested in. you have a strong interest in, right? You got 400 plus to choose from. You don't need to choose 20. It's too much, right? Select. Be a strong selection. Go to that committee meeting and be on time. And that's for one reason. Typically, at the start of a committee meeting, there's introductions. It means you get to introduce yourself. You put your name out there for the first time. That's important. People want to know you, or you want the people to know who you are. Right? So start putting your name out there. It's a very simple, don't be 10 minutes late. You'll miss the introduction. Then what you do, you sit on the perimeter. You know, a typical committee meeting will have tables in the middle and then seats on the outside. Right? The tables in the middle are reserved for the members of the committee. Then the outside, and I'm using TRB terminology and I like it, the outside perimeters is for non-members. They're for friends of the committee. People who are interested in the committee but not members of the committee. Right? So make sure you sit on the right place to start with, just to give you an indication. If the chair invites you to sit at the table, go ahead, feel free. Do so. Right? And this does not limit your capacity to interact with the committee. It doesn't matter whether you sit on the inside or the outside, except for one thing, voting. All right, check the committee, observe the committee. See what they do, right? What are they doing with time? And here I might deviate a little bit from the ACI standpoint on this. What is the committee doing? Are they discussing documents, ballots, sessions, research, and so on? Or are you having member A saying, I got this giant project over here, blah, 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 and I got member B saying this, time's up. See what the committee is doing, how active the committee is. See if there is any politics, any heavy politics involved in the committee. There are rumors that some committees are not advancing because you get two groups fighting each other. Make your conclusion. Do you want to be involved in this, yes or no? Even if that's a committee with a strong interest to you, it might not be a bad idea to say, I'll come back in 5 years. We'll see what happens, right? There's other committees you'll probably be interested in. Take a conclusion on that. If you like the committee, so you feel like the topic and the productivity of the committee, then you may consider becoming a member. And you don't have to do that immediately. You know, if you want to take another convention to see if you want to be a member, you can still sit on the outside, you're fine, right? Now, application for membership is done online through the ACI website, but I strongly recommend you to have a chat with the chair or the secretary first. Introduce yourself, get your name out. Say, okay, I'm doing this, you know, this is my expertise, this is what I'm doing either as a student or as a job and so on, and I think I can contribute to this committee in this and this and this topic. You get your name on there. Then if the applications come in for the chair, they're going to say, yeah, I remember talking to you. Click, accept, right? So really talk to the people, get your name out of there, right? Then the question is, do you want to be an associate member or a voting member? And here's what I say, watch out with voting membership, because voting membership is commitment. ACI, if you're a voting member of a committee, ACI is counting on you to do work. I'm not going to try to discourage you to do work, but that's work, right? Why? Because you get ballots and you get meetings. And during these events, there's a certain quorum, or a certain quorum that needs to be met. X% of the voting members must have voted. X% of the voting members must be present. If you're a voting member, you didn't vote or you're not there, they may not meet the quorum. It's not going to be your fault, but you're a part of it, right? So understand that being a voting member is a commitment. If you're in a large committee, if you apply to a large committee, you're probably not going to get voting membership immediately. If you're in a small one, that's where the danger is. And that's, again, coming from my experience. And again, if you're voting membership, then really ask the question, is this the committee I want to be heavily involved in for the X number of coming years? You know, it's not a one-year thing. It's going to be a long-term commitment. Keep that in mind. All right. You're a member of the committee now. You can sit at the table. You don't have to sit on the outside anymore. You're a member of the committee. Start getting involved. And here's my recommendation. And again, this is my take on things. Start taking on some of the smaller tasks. Start helping. Start, you know, for example, by writing a paragraph, by writing a section, by writing a part of a chapter, right? But my advice to you as young members, you still don't know 100% how the process, you still don't know how 100% the process is going, right? But you still don't know 100% how the process is going. Don't take the lead yet. Wait. But start to get involved. Work with other people to gradually work you into the procedures of the committee, right? So that's what I say. You don't want to take the lead immediately because the ballot process can be rough. And if you wrote the thing and you took the lead on the thing, don't take it personal. But it can be rough, right? So that's my advice. Start helping. The first thing you do, the first task you do is help with somebody else, right? So, and that's the important part. Stick to your strengths. If you don't know anything about quantum physics, don't write anything on quantum physics. We're not expecting you to write something on quantum physics, right? If it's something you don't have the experience or the knowledge in, don't even volunteer to do the work. Even if there's nobody else. Don't say, I feel pity, yeah, well, fine, I'll do it. No, stick to your strengths. You're the expert on this specific thing. Depends on what you do, stick to it. Don't change, don't go too much, don't venture out too much of what you have. Also, as an associate member, you have a lot of opportunities, and you have a lot of rights. You have a lot of options. You can write parts of documents, you can take the lead on anything. You can deliver comments on ballots, you're allowed to do that. On a document, it's not just voting members that have the right to review documents. You as associate member have the same rights to review the document. You can share your opinions during the meetings, no problem, even as a guest. If there's something you feel is important to you, go ahead and share it. With some restrictions, and I'll come back to that. The only thing you can't do is vote. That's it. It's the only difference between an associate and a voting member. Also, and this is the way I did it, is if you're a fluent communicator, for example, organize or volunteer to organize technical sessions. You know, some committees are really strong in it and trying to disseminate knowledge through the convention, some are not. If your committee has a strong tendency, or even if they don't, maybe give them a little push in the back. But start organizing technical sessions. All right, again, first thing, stick to your strength. 2, help someone. Your first session should not be led by you and then somebody else to help you. No, the first session you organize, you should be helping somebody else. So, question goes around the committee, who wants to lead session, blah, 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 whatever, X. And then you have some of those old people saying, yeah, that's fine, I'll do it. Then it's your time. Yes, I want to help. If you're lucky, you get selected, and then you'll be helping that more senior member in organizing the session. And they give you a very good opportunity to network with that person, because you're going to have to sit together and organize that thing and submit all the paperwork. And that typically takes a year and a half before the session. And it gives you a good opportunity to interact with all the speakers you and that other person are selecting. That's really good. Get your name out of there. Right? So be careful, but be careful. Make sure that older member or that more senior member has the lead on everything. We don't want to be left alone in here. Right? That's the tricky part. And then grow. So you're steadily building up your activities in the committee, grow in your committee. Slowly get your name on there because it's all about ability. And all the hard work you've done by helping here, helping there will be rewarded with more hard work. But that's the thing where you can get, especially in the larger committees, that's when you get promoted to voting member. You have a record of sustained activity in the committee. You'll get rewarded for doing the work, by getting more work, but you get voting membership. That's how you grow in your committee. Right? So gently take on more work, and again, depending on how much time you can commit. ACI, being a member of an ACI committee should not be a full-time job. Watch out with that, right? And again, this is a long-term process. We're talking a couple of years here, right? So be patient. Don't want to become chair after 3 years being in the committee. If they ask you to become chair after 3 years in the committee, there's something wrong with the committee. All right? Only take leadership positions when you're ready and when you're able to commit. I don't know how many students are in here. I don't know how many professionals are in here. I don't know how many young professors are in here. I'll share one story. I got offered an opportunity to become chair of a committee. At that point, I was still an assistant professor. I talked to a couple of colleagues, and they're like, no, you need to focus on your research to get tenure. Do not take the job. And I didn't. Sorry for my colleague who got pushed at the position, but I didn't take it. Right? So only do it when you're ready to commit. Only do it when it's the good time for you to do it. Right? Again, your profession is the most important. If you lose your job, ACI is not going to pay you. Right? That's the most important first. Pitfalls, and this may or may not be based on personal experience, but 1, do not select the wrong committee. Right? If you're not an expert in the committee, don't sign up. You might be interested in it, fine, you can sit on the outside and listen to what they have to say, but don't sign up to become a committee member, because if you're going to have to give your input on something you don't know, well, what's that input going to be like? Second thing, don't select the wrong committee if that committee is moving very slowly, or not at all. It might lead to frustration, and I say, dang, I don't like ACI, I'm not going to come anymore. Don't go to that committee. Don't sign up for that committee, right? Here's another thing. There's going to be a ton of discussions during those meetings, right? If somebody's bringing up a point that you think, and it's absolutely right within your expertise, and you think that person is egregiously wrong, don't step on their toes. Be diplomatic, right? Some people are active longer in ACI than you're walking around on this planet, right? They want respect, they deserve respect, and a friendly conversation can do a lot more wonders than yelling out and like, it's not right. So be careful, be diplomatic in there, right? If you are working on a document or if you're leading a document, don't get discouraged by balloting process. Because not everybody's going to write on a certain document or a certain chapter by the time it goes up for ballot. So you got these lifelong experts in there that didn't help you at all, and they're voting your thing down completely. It's not personal, right? ACI balloting is not internet trolling. That's not what it is, right? We know who wrote which comment, by the way. We do, right? It is the intention of the voter to improve the document with the knowledge that person has, which might be right or wrong. That doesn't matter. That's up to the discussion of the committee. But that's the intention of the person voting negative. And there's some people who have a reputation of voting a ton of negative. It happens. Don't be discouraged. It's not a personal attack, right? Do not overcommit. Your time is very, very valuable, right? You got a job, you got a life, you're not an employee of ACI, you're not paid for it, right? So make sure your job has the priority. This is volunteering. I strongly encourage you to volunteer, I strongly encourage you to do as much as you can for ACI, but make sure it doesn't hinder your professional and your personal life. And another advice I have, reputation is slow to build, it's very quickly to be destroyed. So be careful. Right? You want to build your reputation, you want to get your name out of there, don't destroy it. So, in summary, select the right committee or the committees, select a couple. I'm active in 3 technical committees. That's it. Not 6 or 7, 3. It's enough for me, right? Slowly work your way in by taking on some of the tasks, right? Stay within your expertise, stay within your strengths, don't venture too far out. Increase your visibility and your reputation by taking on work, and then remember that your time is valuable. Thank you.
More. Anahid Baruzi. I'm with Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, teaching faculty, so this will provide a contrast to what you just heard from Dimitri about technical committees. But a little bit about my story is that I went to undergraduate at North Carolina State University. I did degrees in both civil engineering and Spanish language and literature. For me, it was about balance. It was also about interacting with different types of people. From there, I ended up doing large-scale testing in our laboratory, and as I think Andres agrees a lot with, breaking things is a lot of fun, and I got paid to do it. So I was, at that time, breaking reinforced concrete columns for an Alaska DOT project, and then I moved on to University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and there I was breaking large-scale C-shaped reinforced concrete shear walls. So in both applications, I was looking at seismic performance, and I'm kind of going to walk you through my story. So this is very personal. There's a lot of photographs of people I've interacted with, things I've done, so I can provide you with concrete examples of kind of the story that I've gone through. So the theme is all about seeking out mentors, because they will take you places you never anticipated that you would ever go, and things that you would ever be able to do. And I think this is like a common theme that we've heard from almost every single person that's already presented this morning. But the second part might be something that we haven't really touched on yet, and you'll hear this through my presentation as well. It's about when you get those new opportunities, you bring your peers along, because sometimes your peers are more shy, or they don't have the funds to come to ACI. They don't have the exposure to the people that you've had. And so this is about taking your peers along with you and elevating those that are younger than you. So I promised a lot of pictures of people that have influenced me along the way. I started at the collegiate chapter. I was not involved with ACI as an undergrad. ASCE was the big thing at NC State in undergrad for me. So it was when I got to graduate school that I got involved in the collegiate chapter. We had a pretty strong graduate presence in ACI. Again, ASCE was our strong undergraduate organization, but ACI was a really nice fit for we had quite a few materials researchers and structural large-scale testing researchers that we came together in this organization as mostly graduate students, but we would engage undergrads. And one of the ways that we got undergrads to help us out, you see me working with a summer camp that we would make reinforced concrete shear walls at the miniature scale, and I'm talking to a student about how to use threaded rod for reinforcement. So there was different opportunities for us to work with students and to actually have them cast models, and then they would come back at the end of the week, at the end of the summer camp time, and we tested them in our small scale facility. So for you that are still an undergrad, really do consider that outreach is one of your opportunities. You can definitely work with high school students. You're the ones that get them all excited, because as grad students, I think we almost have to remember what it's like to be young and be excited and be experiencing new things. So this was always I had been in education growing up. I'd worked at science summer camp, so this was like a really good tie-in to let me get back to those roots of teaching. On the very right, conducting concrete research was another big part of how I engaged with ACI in graduate school. So to run these tests, and the type of people we engaged with were all ACI members. And so the folks you see along the bottom, Dan Kuchma, Don Lehman, and Laura Lowe's, they're all my PhD co-advisors. And so when I would come with them to ACI, I would sit by them in the technical committee meetings, because they knew that I was developing technical expertise on non-planar shear walls. And so, as Dimitri said, the voting members, they get to sit at the table. When your PhD advisor is the voting member and gets permission for you to sit at the table next to them because you are providing them technical expertise on a very specific level, and you have your laptop out and they're like, pull this document, look this up, because we need a comment right now on what's going on, that is a really good learning experience. So your advisors can make openings for you to sit at the table, where other people that respect them and have known them for like 20, 25 years will say, okay, that's this person's PhD student, and that's basically like their right-hand person while they're here trying to respond to comments and things like that. So I would say that when I started out, my advisor, Dan Kuchma, he was one of the chairs of a committee, and so I would attend that one. That was not the one that I particularly had expertise in. I learned a lot about how people interact in a committee, but I would say it's, my other two advisors that they would bring me to the table because I have more of an expertise in their area, and I would actually get to, through them, have some input. And then, in fact, there's the opportunity for your advisor to even say, I think Anahid knows that, can she just speak directly to the committee? So this is where, mentorship and taking that advantage, or even if your advisor's not fully aware of this, you can indicate, I have technical experience in this area, or your boss, if you're in industry, I have technical experience in this area that you're a voting member, would you like me to assist while you're going through these documents or processes? So that's what I wanted to say about graduate school. But also, I feel like we have quite a number of students in the room. The ACI fellowships, they are due on November 1st. So please go online and find them, but they are quite significant. I believe the fellowships are at a $10,000 level this year. You can look it up online. And then we do have scholarships as well. They're undergrad and graduate, but the ones that I was able to take advantage of where I was at in my career were the graduate ones. So the thing about the fellowships is they allow you to come to 3 conferences. 1, to get interviewed, and 2, if you receive it, so that you can become, one of the objectives is to have you engage with the institute. And so they do that by providing you the means to not only get funding, the $10,000 that helps with your education, but they completely take care of, literally they have a travel agent that books everything for you because they want to make it as comfortable as possible so that you can come to ACI conventions and meet people and begin becoming a part of either educational or technical committees, maybe even volunteer for the competition if that's what you're passionate about, and get involved in the different networking events. So the fellowships were a really meaningful experience to me, and it's not just about coming to conventions, But at the time that I was going through the fellowship program, they asked me, who do you want to be your ACI fellowship mentor? And I was like, who do I pick? Because remember, I was still very young in the organization. I had like come with my advisors to some of their committee meetings. So I actually asked my PhD advisor, who should I suggest that I pick? And he said, well, Ron Klemensic was one of our industry supporters when we were putting in for all of our grants to even do the large-scale testing of the C-shaped walls. And I was like, Ron Klemensic's like the CEO of MKA, he might say no. And then my advisor was like, well, he might say yes, you never know. And so Ron said yes, and it's been amazing. ACI, so basically I sent an email back to Kathy Rockwell, and I said, I'd like Ron to be my industry advisor, and I provided a few sentences about why this would be a mutually beneficial relationship because of his interest in the outcomes of our test, and me because I would just learn a ton and have a really good industry contact. And so she's the one who contacted, through ACI, contacted Ron, and it worked out. So it was not like I was cold calling someone as a student. It was ACI was my intermediary that was advocating for me and said, we would like you to be a fellowship mentor. And so Ron has taken me to ACI 318 mixers to introduce me to people. And for example, he's continued to mentor me. So we're meeting this afternoon before the gala to catch up on what new projects he's doing and then see where I am. So this is something that if you keep cultivating a relationship that ACI helps put together, it can be meaningful, because this probably started back in 2014, 2015, and now it's almost 2020 here. So I think it's really important to think about these fellowship opportunities for the other components that are really worthwhile. I do have a couple other pictures. Leslie Sneed from Missouri S&T, and then Carrie Hall, I believe from Southern Indiana University. They both have been selected as my mentors. So as the years have gone by, they've gone more into a process where ACI selects your mentors. But if you get the fellowship, maybe that's something that you could propose, one of the conventions, can I propose a mentor and you can help me get connected with them? Because I think that's of tremendous value. So interacting with ACI leaders and then meeting the other ACI student fellows has been very meaningful through that process. And then along the way, I've been had the great opportunity of coming to quite a number of conferences, and that has allowed me to get more engaged with the committees and things that I'll talk about moving forward. So while I was in grad school, actually, I ended up getting really excited. I've always been excited about teaching, but I was ending up being an instructor of record for a reinforced concrete class that I TA'd 4 or 5 times. And there were certain concepts that the students just, it didn't click, but I thought if we just made some physical models, so I have some examples of the physical models that I've made, this would work out and they'd really understand the topics quite a bit better. And so it came about as I ended up doing human studies research. I made the models, I did surveying of the students, and I ended up being at a point where I said, I've done a lot of work in this. I'm wondering if there's to ACI and other educators so that I can just get my models out there, and then it looks like something that'll work for me. You can just contact me and I have all the fabrication drawings and they can utilize them in their own classroom. So Rex Donahue really is what brought this together. So I ended up writing a Concrete International article, and he was pretty excited about having educational content that he thought would be of value to the faculty that are members of the organization, and so ended up having a CI article that I was working on as a PhD student. So for me, it was making opportunities. So that's another thing. If you're in a research graduate program or you end up in one, you can also create educational and educational research opportunities for yourself. So that was one of those. And then he has just been instrumental in getting some of the other CI papers published. But they have an amazing editorial team there, and he is super knowledgeable. You can talk to him about deep learning in tremendous amount of detail, and he knows exactly what is going on. So I just have so much respect for their editorial staff. In terms of committees, while I attend the technical committees, I don't tend to get super involved at the associate or voting member level. It's more to just see what's going on and and think about how it impacts my research, and then smaller presentations more direct to the committee chairs where relevant. But where I've really found a home is in places like ACI 133, disaster reconnaissance, where they actually invite anyone that comes in the room to sit at the table and to have a voice, especially those who have some experience in the disaster reconnaissance area. So there have been times the committee chair, before I was even a voting member, allowed me and my student to present on machine learning work we did. Through that experience, I was able to connect with some of the committee members, and we ended up writing a collaborative NSF grant to go to Mexico City after the earthquake, and then publishing another CI article. So this is just a draft that we just presented yesterday. So there's opportunities like that. Also, serving students has been a big deal for me, and so I got involved in educational committees. So I don't know that we saw any of the S800s on the list that you've already seen, but this is a place that I felt like I could shine. So I've been the committee advisor for S805 Concrete Collegiate Council. I volunteered with competitions, mostly just to make sure that any team that comes from a Spanish-speaking country was pronounced correctly, because I thought it was important, if you've traveled this far, that we at least get that right. And so it was instrumental that I worked with John Schimmel, and I volunteered to do like secretary type work for S805, that he was like, you seem really excited about this. Do you want to take on a bigger role with S805? In terms of other opportunities I never thought I'd have, is I am currently on Scholarship Council. So I review the fellowships and the scholarships now, and that really came of, again, John Schimmel, Tyler Lay, really advocating for me. These are people I'd engaged with either through preparation of the CI articles on education or through S805, and because I had been a past recipient and was very passionate about getting fellowship recipients more involved in convention activities, I think that's what motivated them to say, like, hey, when you graduate, we'd love to have you on the committee. So I do that work now. And then just this year, because of Ron Klemensik's introducing me to Ann Ellis, a past president, I got involved in doing the Excellence in Concrete Construction Awards and got to judge the mid-rise category, which is like, how do you end up like doing these things? And it's really about the people. Through Ann, I was also able to help organize a webinar that was on machine learning and also crowdsourcing engineers' expertise in like a post-earthquake reconnaissance type scenario. And so I was able to work with Ann so I could get two of the faculty that I knew personally that she had never met before, and I was really impressed with their work. We were able to put together a webinar and present that, and it's available online. And then I feel like the most important thing now for me is bringing my students and bringing their work to ACI conventions. So whether that's, Jack Berquist that was able to come present with me at ACI 133, or my current work that my students weren't able to attend because they're working full time. So I am presenting the work on their behalf, but I'd really rather they have come, because I would have loved for them to meet everyone here. But that's like what I see my role. It was about the people and how they reached out to me and helped me along, gave me opportunities, and now it's about what I can do for my students and the younger members. So, big points of navigating ACI from my perspective: apply for ACI funding to support your education, so fellowships, scholarships. There are opportunities to support convention travel. I was just on the task group kind of in charge of doing the graduate travel stipend, and we had like almost 50 applications for 5 $1,000 stipends, so that was new this convention. There's also opportunities to get research funded if you're young faculty through the foundation. There's also leadership trainings where you can apply and ACI will send you as a representative. For me, it's about identifying how your technical and educational passions align with ACI committees. So please remember there are educational committees. They are the S800 committees. It's not just about the technical committees. And sometimes you, like if you're teaching faculty like me or you're more teaching bent, the S800s can be a really good fit for you, where you feel like you have a lot of impact. View every ACI member as a potential mentor. They have been more kind and more generous with time than I ever thought they would. And these are people that like have no time, and they like sleep probably like 5 hours a day, but it is just amazing how much they want to help us as young people. And then pay it forward. Empower every peer and younger member. So for the webinar, I knew that some of my friends weren't plugged in with ACI, they're plugged in with many different organizations, and I said, these are awesome people doing awesome work. and can I bring them in so they can do this webinar? And she was like impressed with them and then invited them to other things related to ACI so they can really grow in terms of their engagement with ACI. So I couldn't fit all of the people that you saw that have mentored me or somehow impacted my journey, but I tried to fit as many as I could, and I appreciate your time, and I hope that some of these very personal experiences like create parallels that you can think of how you might get engaged with ACI. And I know that we're on to the Q&A panel part. Thanks again.
Does anybody have any questions so far? Otherwise, we're going to, okay. Please go up to the mic and ask your question, and hope our speakers can answer.
Hello, good morning. Well, first of all, thank you very much, everybody, for taking your time to come out to us. It's very informative, very engaging, and also very mind-opening. And so my question to y'all is, so I'm graduating in May with a bachelor's in engineering technology, and I was sitting for the FE in civil to become an EIT in Texas. But my question is, I'm considering whether I should go straight to work or if I should continue on to graduate right away, because with you, Miss, since I saw you got a graduate degree in engineering management, that's actually something that I wanted to do as well. But I don't know if I should wait for that, do it after I start working, or just do it right away. Because I have heard two sides to the story that, you know, to stay with the current trends, start working, or like get your education right away, because later on it's hard to get it. Especially when you're a professional. So I just wanted to ask that to everybody. Thank you.
From my experience, I would suggest just work first. I worked as a structural engineer for many years, and then I decided to go with management, just because you can get your technical knowledge from FE and then you get your license by PE. But then the management was actually give you a bridge between your technical knowledge into more of business management. You will get a good idea of it's more business, how to keep up, how to get good return on investment on your business, because essentially all of it is business in addition to the technical side. So I would suggest just work first, see what's your passion about, what you like to do, and then go to grad school.
And now let's have fun. I'll oppose the view. My opinion is maybe go first to grad school. You know, I'm involved in trying to recruit students and retain students as bachelors. And, you know, you always get a couple like, yeah, this could be good students as a master. And then you're like, yeah, you know, are you interested? You know, we got projects here, we got funding. Are you interested to stay and so on? And as soon as they say, yeah, I'll go work first, we don't see them back. We don't get them back, right? So, and that's always a personal decision, right? The question is, are you going to have time and are you going to have the energy once you go into work to come back? That's always, and that's the difficulty, right? So if you're strong-willed and you really want to do this, then you can go either way. But as I said, from my experience, once people go to work, we rarely see them coming back to grad school.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Yes, please.
So I don't have a question, but I have just a couple of comments, and I want to start. Again, my name is Michael Paul. I'm on the board of direction for ACI. So I want to start by thanking all of you for being here, being at this session, and more importantly, for coming to ACI, for coming to the convention. I also want to thank all of the speakers and the moderators for putting this session on. It was great. You are the future of ACI. I hope that I see all of you again at future conventions. So I just want to emphasize a couple of things that these great speakers have already mentioned to you, and you've seen it repeatedly, but it bears worth saying again. People are the most, I mean, we're all here because of concrete, right? ACI. But it's the people that really will empower your careers, and you've heard that from, I think, all of your speakers. That's why I started at ACI. That's why I'm still here. One of the other things you heard was about local chapters. That is a great way to be very active in ACI. It's affordable, it's easy, it's close to where you live. This part here at the convention is all fun and exciting. It only happens twice a year. So there's a way to be participatory really monthly or more often. Also, it's a great, provides great opportunities for you. Chapters always are looking for help. So you can raise your hand and say, I'd like to help with that next dinner meeting or whatever it is. The last thing, and again, I think you've heard it from most of the speakers, is there's a lot here at ACI. Find something you like and follow that. You may end up completely different in 5 years, but this is a great way to start. So once again, thank all of you, and thank all of you.
Thank you. We'll have more questions.
Okay, I'm Karthik, a PhD student at University of Illinois. My question was for Professor Face. You said helping out, it's a simple one. You said helping out the senior member moderate a session or joining, and what exactly does it entail? What goes into planning a session, moderating a session? A little bit more about that. Thank you.
Yes. All right. So sessions, usually, I'm not sure about all of them, need to be approved by TAC. The technical sessions, the TAC, is the one that approves the session. So I'll talk about the minimum delays, right? So the quickest possible to organize a session, it's a year-long process. It starts in one or more committees interested in spreading information on a certain topic, and ACI is encouraging multidisciplinary topics. You know, if you look in your program book, every time under the session, it says sponsored by committee, this, and hopefully there's more than one. So it starts there. Then you get typically 2 volunteers to organize the session. So you get 2 requests you need to make online, is a preliminary and a final session request. So the preliminary session request introduces topic, what you're going to learn. If you already got the speakers, fine, but you don't have to have them. But for TAC to know, okay, which one, next one, Chicago, after that, if, for example, Raleigh. If you want to organize something in the fall in Raleigh in 2020, the deadline is this Friday. It usually is just the Friday after the convention. So deadline is this Friday. Submit learning objectives, topics, short summary of what the session is, moderators, and so on. You'll get a yes or a no from TAC to get preliminary approval. It's not final yet, right? And then the next deadline is the next convention, the Friday. So if you have submitted your preliminary request for Chicago, then by this Friday you're going to have to submit your final request for Chicago. Your final request includes all speakers, all abstracts for all speakers, and that needs to be sent to TAC, and then again, TAC will or will not approve your session. Sometimes they will defer sessions. If the quality is excellent, they will defer sessions because of lack of space, right? This is a relatively small convention hall in terms of technical sessions. So there's only 3 parallel sessions. They try to squeeze you in, but sometimes it doesn't work, right? Then, from my experience, what you will get is a couple of months before the convention, you'll get an outlook of the program, where you might need to do any editing for, you know, I'm missing a quarter here, or the affiliation is wrong, there's a spelling mistake. Send that out to your speakers as well so they can verify all that information. You get the final editing, and then the convention comes, then you're the moderator of the session, right? So your task is, as those 2 people have done great here, is to introduce the speakers, to entertain questions, typically for the moderator, and that's why I say stick to your strengths. Typically, if there's no question coming from the audience, and if there's time left, as a chair, as a moderator, you are expected to formulate a question. So if you're a young member, having that senior member next to you, great. Because usually that's the person who's going to come up with a question. And then you make sure the session starts on time, ends on time, everybody got equivalent time, and so on. So that's how it works in a relatively long description. Okay, does that answer the question?
Thank you.
Is there any more questions, or we have to actually pull up the questions out? We have.
So, just to be very blunt, and a lot of you guys have addressed this, but are students allowed to go to technical committee meetings?
Yes. 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 Absolutely.
Yes, you are invited to go. And the other thing I'm going to say is if you see me in any committee meetings, you can come sit by me if I'm sitting at the table. And what I always try to do is if you have a good idea that you'd rather share with me, then I can share it out, or I can just encourage you and say, that's a good idea. share it with the committee, because that's the type of person I am. So if you don't feel comfortable, I'll say it and then I'll credit it to you. And then hopefully the chair will be like, it is a good idea. Let's have some follow-up to develop what the concept is you're talking about. But I've done that in the past, and it's just kind of how I do things. But again, I tend to be in educational committees, so you guys are probably the experts in being educated, and so that's why it's really fitting. So that's what I would say. And I think many of us in the appropriate setting would probably do the same to support our younger members and get their voices heard.
We have a question, and that's for all of you, so we're going to start. How did your expectations of ACI change when you become a young professional? Like, how you see ACI when you were a student, how you see it now?
Well, for me, I really, when I was a student in college, I really wasn't even sure that I was going to be involved in the concrete industry yet. And so when I first got involved in ACI, it was very new to me. It was kind of a foreign land that I had never been to. And so a lot of it was taking it in. And looking back, it's been a very beautiful experience for me. And now the way I view it now is when all these people come together and we create this big, family, this big team, we're all trying to make concrete better. And coming from the manufacturing side, one of the things that we do is when we come to convention, we have to, take off our manufacturing hat and look at the industry as a whole of what it's missing and the things that need to be improved. And that's really what gets me the most excited about being involved in ACI and improving because it makes a difference. It has a ripple effect over the whole world, the things that we do here at convention. And it's a slow process, but as we move it forward, it's really an incredible thing.
Yeah, I believe mainly your interest will change from being student to being a professional. And even when you are a professional, based on whatever field you are in, whether it's a lab test or structural design or construction, your interest will vary. And the best thing about ACI is that wherever your field is, you can find committee that relate to whatever you're doing. So that would be something to consider when you are joining technical committees.
I think when I first started, other than kind of tagging along with my advisors, I was quite a bit intimidated, which is probably how a lot of you feel if you sit in a technical committee. These people have been doing, like Dimitri said, they've been doing that expertise area since longer than I've been alive. So I've always been in awe of them and a little bit intimidated. But then you transition into but now we know that they're these generous, kind humans that want to share with us all this knowledge. So now I'm like, I need to download Loring Wiley's brain by sitting in 318 because he seems to know all these things about test run in the 70s and the 80s and everything. So now it's switched to enthusiasm about just extracting as much of their knowledge as possible and learning as much from them. But I'm still very much in awe of what everybody does. The other thing I've learned is kind of find your own path. So I used to kind of be critical of myself because I saw my peers getting really involved in technical committees where I was just sitting on the sidelines and felt more comfortable long-term sitting on the sidelines of those committees. But then the educational committees, the scholarship council, the other types of awards committees are places where I actually feel really comfortable and I have an impact, but it's a very different kind of impact. So I think it's about being okay with taking a totally different path. So those are kind of my comments there.
I think I'm in agreement with everybody here. It's definitely intimidating when you're in college because you have to talk to people, and especially those who have been doing this for 20, 30 years. They're the experts in concrete. When you go into the workforce, you are now trying to transition, and I really wish I would have just done it sooner as a student. So when I did encounter them at these conventions, it's like, hey, you remember me? Hey, I got a job. It's actually... It's something that, it would come full circle. So, I agree with everybody here.
Just to be a quick here, I personally was involved with ACI at a later age, but I had experience with RILEM, which is the European equivalent for ACI, doing these things. So the expectations, I more or less had the expectations coming over from RILEM, which has the same mission, more or less the same mission as ACI. The only thing that changed, I'm a little more patient. Things go a little slower. That's it.
Well, hello again. So, my question is, when you join these technical committees, what is makeup of that committee? Like, is there like a minimum like background that you have to meet? Because I imagine that students, I don't know what level they are in, but I can imagine from freshmen to seniors, from first year to last year, how can they get involved? Like, if they don't have that knowledge, if they haven't taken that class, and also, if they do decide to get involved, then does that mean they have to drive to certain locations? Do they have to attend every convention, even if they're on a financial budget? Things like that. So the makeup of the committee, like what you need, and then how do you actually become involved? Like, what do you do?
So what I would say there is, as a student, I mean, now, and being here at convention, now is your opportunity to explore those committees. When you go to a committee meeting or you set in on a committee meeting, it's not the best place to ask a ton of questions, because the committee is going to move along with the process of their agenda and things that they have. You may have that opportunity, but sitting in on the committees, you get to hear the discussion, you get to learn from the people in that room, and that's where you start to vet whether it's really interesting to you or not. And if it is, then my suggestion would be, once the committee meeting's over, is try to approach and ask someone for a few minutes, just to ask them a couple more questions so you can further understand that. Does that help answer your question a little bit?
I would also suggest talk to the chair and secretary before or after. Usually before is really good, because after everybody's too busy. So they are the main people there. They know a lot of the committee. So if you share your interest, they will be able to tell you if you're gonna fit or they have something to do. And usually if you ask for volunteer work, they will give you a lot, because there are a lot of technical work in those committees. So that would be my first suggestion. And then when you decide to go to be a member of specific committee, you need to fill application online, and you need to list why you're interested to be there. So it will be a vetting process just to make sure it will be something you're interested in. And it will happen before and after, not the actual meeting. The actual meeting will be mainly technical discussion about documents and upcoming mini sessions or sessions. So that would be my suggestion.
One, officially there are no entry requirements. So you can't join, right? Just you have to fill out the application, and again, it's up to the chair or to the secretary to approve your application for the committee. And I would say, as a freshman or a sophomore attending a technical committee, that's two different levels, right? The technical committee is going to deal with the latest innovations and the latest changes in the field that's very highly technical and very specialized. I'm not sure, as a freshman, sophomore, or junior, if you get the knowledge to 100% follow what's being discussed in the committee. You see what I mean? If it's something you're interested in, you can go. I would say go listen, go see what's being done. If you're planning on moving on to grad studies, that could be, I'm interested in this topic, this topic, this topic. The thing is, you're not gonna have, it's not possible unless you're brilliant and fantastic. But usually it's not possible to have that level of expertise that you need to be, let's say, heavily involved, especially in highly technical, highly specialized topics, right? So that's as an undergrad student, that's making it a little more difficult to be involved in technical committees. Now, once either you become a grad student or you're involved in the industry, well, then you get the expertise, and then you can move on. And again, there's no official, there's no requirements. It's an application, and it's to the discretion of the chair to make sure to be in the committee, but there's no official application. No official requirements, let's say it that way. If you don't mind, also on the makeup of the committee, each committee is supposed to be, there's guidelines on how many industry people, how many material producers, contractors, There's some guidelines on how your committee should be composed as well, mixing up people from different industries as well, just to add that in there.
Also, I want to add to that, don't be surprised if you get invited to a committee, because that was my case. Because of the student competitions, I was invited to one of the committees, and it was due to the performance of the team in the student competition. So that's something that is there, and don't get surprised if you see it. So, any other questions that we might have? Well, if we don't have any more questions, thank you very much for attending. Thank you to the speakers.